Hi, everybody. Good morning. Happy Saturday. Yay. We are live, it looks like. Happy Saturday, everybody. Good morning. I hope that your weekend is off to an incredible start so far. Mine is. I got to sleep in today. Went to bed early last night. Always a good combination. All right. So if you are on with me, say hi. We'll see if my comments want to work today. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. We shall see. Hi, Melissa. Good to see you. Awesome. It looks like comments are working. Okay, so we are on day 6. We're halfway through. We're on day 6. Hi, Lucia. Oh my gosh, you're in Spellbound. I'm so excited. And is it Lucia or Lucia? Let me know in the comments. But we are on day 6 of the 12 days of the brand archetypes. So this has been really fun. What we've been doing, if this is the first live that you're catching, is going over one of the 12 brand archetypes every single day. So we are following the order of the zodiac archetypes, and we're doing a live, and then I'm sending out an email as well. For the rest of the series, I guess you could say, I'm going to consolidate 2 archetypes per email just so I'm not blowing up your inbox. But we're also looking at charts. Lucia, perfect. Thank you for confirming. So I'm also looking at charts to really help you awaken this archetype inside of you. So just a quick little recap of how all of this works and why we even care about the brand archetypes in the first place. So the brand archetype is who your brand is here to be. It really is how your brand sees the world. It's how your brand is motivated. It is what drives your brand. And more importantly, it is who your brand is speaking to. So we are determining your brand archetype based off of your personal rising sign or your ascendant sign, same thing. And this can be found, hi Carrie, this can be found in your astrology chart, in your natal chart. So I usually just Google free astrology chart or free astrology chart with ascendant, and it will pull up lots of matches for you, and you can find what that is. So the reason that we use your rising sign to determine your brand archetype is because your rising sign is who your soul came here to be. It is the highest potential that is available for you and for your story and for your mission and for everything that you are basically designed to walk out during this lifetime. So the brand archetype is really, really fascinating, and I like to call it a system because I love systems, but you can also think of it as magic, right? It is magic. It is something that you you can learn to repeat and learn to live and embody over and over so that you know for sure that you are saying the right thing, right? You are putting the correct message out there. And by correct, I mean the thing that your soul is here to say and share, but also the thing that your dream clients are longing and need to hear from you. And so your brand archetype is also your dream client. So for all of you that are watching this and watching the replay, if you're the dreamer archetype, that means that your dream client is also the dreamer. Because when we show up in our brand in the full expression, and that means basically like what's possible for us in that moment, right? This isn't about perfection. And I'm saying this specifically for the dreamers, and I'll jump into that in a second. But when you're showing up in the full expression that you are capable of in that moment, in that season of your business, you are calling to and activating and pulling in that dreamer archetype in other people. So when we know what archetype is activated in somebody, we know what they are programmed and coded to deeply desire, right? Every single business that has an offer, has a service, or has something that they're selling needs to understand what people actually want. And then we also know what their deep archetypal fear is, right? Why do they not have what they want yet? And that right there is what most businesses and most entrepreneurs spend their entire lives trying to figure out and sometimes never get right because it's a guessing game for them. But for us, we know for sure because we understand how magic works. Hi, Davina. Okay, so any questions from anybody? If you're live with me or if you're watching the replay, if you have any questions just about the brand archetype system and how all of that works, feel free to leave the question in the comments. Otherwise, let's start talking about the dreamer. So if you're on live with me, tell me in the comments if this is your archetype, if you are Virgo rising and therefore the dreamer archetype. I would love to know. So Virgo rising, the dreamer. I say this about every archetype, but I mean it. It's a really, really interesting one. It's very intriguing and it's really complex. Even though the dreamer from just first glance seems like she wouldn't be that complex. She's actually probably the most complex and most complicated of all of the archetypes. But okay, Melissa's Virgo rising. Perfect. So let me know as I'm sharing all of this, let me know if it resonates with you. And also let me know what your experience has been like, right? Like how this has shown up for you, what kind of stories this has created for you, because I always love to hear that. But first and foremost, Virgo rising. Hi Layla, Carrie's Virgo rising. Perfect. Oh, Stephanie, hello. Stephanie said she's Virgo rising, total dreamer, and learning all the ways to embody it. So I first want to debunk a couple things about Virgo, about the Virgo archetype. So this is true for Virgo rising, anyone that has prominent Virgo placements in your chart, Virgo sun, Virgo moon, anything like that. Lucy is Virgo rising. Cool. So what we typically hear whenever we're doing, we're Googling stuff about Virgo or reading a horoscope in a magazine or any kind of like just initial information seeking when it comes to Virgo, we tend to hear the same things over and over that are true, but also are not the entire story whatsoever. So we always tend to hear that Virgo is analytical, right? Virgo is a hard worker. Virgo is very detail oriented. Virgo is very regimented, very capable of self-discipline and all of that kind of stuff. So tell me in the comments if you as Virgo rising, or if you're listening in your Virgo sun or whatever, if you've heard that stuff about yourself, right? You're organized, you are meticulous, all of that. Where it's like, is that it? Like I'm the organized one, like that's my whole thing. No, but that is part of it. However, I tend to view the organization, the discipline, the meticulousness, right? Attention to detail. And I love the Virgo risings that are out there in my audience because they'll reply back to emails and be like, wait, there's a typo, like what's the correct time and stuff like that. So like your gift of seeing the details and caring about the details is so needed and it's perfect, but it stems from something so much deeper. And this is the fact that the dreamer archetype, Virgo rising, right? You have this built-in coding of trying to seek perfection, trying to seek excellence, because it stems from this fear of doing something wrong or doing it wrong and therefore getting banished, right? So if you grew up really like feeling successful, feeling happy, feeling joyful when you would get the praise of, oh, you're such a good girl, right? Like you're doing it right, like you're following the rules, you're so good at following the rules, like you're such a good girl. If that kind of praise and that kind of positive reinforcement really felt like it was your whole life as a child, like that is so Virgo rising. That is so the dreamer archetype coming out. Carrie said, although I'm not organized, regimented, or disciplined. Did you read that about Virgo though and like feel like, wait, that's not even me at all? Have you heard that about Virgo? So really Virgo means the great virgin, right? Like purity, innocence. That's another word for the dreamer archetype is innocence, or the innocent rather, the idealist, the hedonist, the utopian, that kind of thing. And so that is at the core of the dreamer's essence, is she wants to be right. She basically wants other people to believe that she's right, because she has this fear of getting kicked out of heaven, getting kicked out of paradise, right? Getting kicked out of this dreamland. So let me know if that's resonating with you. And that might be something that you never consciously recognized, right? But if you have a history of really like caring about following the rules, if you were a stickler for the rules, if you maybe didn't have your first sip of alcohol until you were 21 and it was allowed, right? That kind of thing, because you were really focus on people pleasing and keeping that name of being a good girl out of fear of doing it wrong and out of fear of breaking the rules. Carrie said she read it today, actually. Yeah. So that's like where those outside characteristics of the meticulousness, the disciplined, the being organized, this is on my schedule, so I'm going to do it, because it's coming from that deeper drive of wanting to be good, wanting to follow the rules, not being banished kind of situation. Melissa said she definitely resonates. So one of the ways that we see this brand archetype explained is through, Stephanie said, nailed it with that good girl description. And here is one thing that I find so fascinating and so confusing for the dreamer archetype is that as a kid, especially, I'm assuming everyone that watches this is a woman, but you could probably still resonate even if you weren't, even if you're male. But I'm just going to use the identity of a girl here. Lucia said, resonates deeply, always drawing inside the lines. Yes, right? I love that. Inside the lines. Yes. I've healed so much around this. So, one way that we see this, or here's the confusing part, the dichotomy, right? The part where your heart and your soul and your mind are probably like, what, like, what does this mean? What do I even do with this? Is as we're growing up, you were praised for being the good girl, right? By your teachers, by your parents, by your friends' parents, right? You were probably the child who went over to your friend's house and they were like, oh my gosh, she has such good manners, she's so polite, like, and you got praised over and over and over for doing the right thing, right? And so that's conditioning. Positive reinforcement is 1000% conditioning, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means that you are being taught over and over and over, yes, like, I'm liked when I do this, I am correct when I do this, I am safe when I do this, right? I haven't lost my place in heaven kind of situation. However, this archetype also has this other layer to her where when she starts to grow into an adult, right, she starts to become her own person, she innately has these huge dreams. She has this way of seeing the world. She is very much the optimist. That's another title for this archetype. She has such an optimistic nature about her, and that means that she can dream. She can dream bigger than any other human on this planet, right? She can see beauty when there's nothing. She can see amazingness. She can see miracles when there's literally dirt. So she can look at a field of dirt and see just like paradise. However, that part of her conditioning has kind of dampened that, right? So people tell you, oh, be realistic, be practical, right? Go get a job as a lawyer, go get a job as an accountant, go to school to be a doctor, and you can save your painting dreams for the weekend. You can save your entrepreneurial dreams for the weekend, right? So you are basically, you're praised for one part of your archetypal nature, the good girl, the following the rules, the wanting to be right, the people-pleasing nature of it. But then you are, I don't know if scolded is the right word, but you're taught to suppress this other part of yourself that envisions really big, that dreams really big, that is just naturally hopeful, right? It's like, well, don't get your hopes up too high or you might be disappointed. So you're taught these like very contradictory things about your archetype. And so what that tends to turn into when you're an adult, especially if you're pursuing your own business, is you want to figure out the right way to do it, right? You're obsessed with finding the rules and finding the steps and then following those completely and staying in the lines, right? Staying in the lines, like Lucia said. And that, though, goes completely against your dreamer nature, that part of you that is seeking paradise, is seeking heaven, right? Is seeking a life where your dreams have been fulfilled. So let me know if that resonates with you. That dichotomy, right? Where it's like, it feels like there's this internal struggle. And so a lot of times that can show up and manifest as you, how do I want to say it? Like being really practical minded, right? Really analyzing things, really looking at the statistics, right? What seems likely, instead of allowing that really hopeful part of you that you are programmed to be like, I don't care what the statistics say, I don't care what's normal, I'm going for it because I believe in it and I want it and I can see it and I know that it's mine. So that is something with the dreamer archetype, especially in business, right? Because we hear all this stuff all the time about conversion rates and engagement numbers, and there's lots of statistics and lots of stuff like that people focus on. So if you're noticing that pattern in yourself and you're like, I just have to find the right program, I just have to find the right strategy, I just have to find the right like steps, and then everything will work. Having a strategic mind is a great trait as an entrepreneur, especially in online business for sure. But what's going to really allow you to fully express yourself and allow your potential and your magic to unfold and just come roaring out of you is that ability to say, you know what, I'm putting more faith in my dream. I am putting more faith that this will work. over any other kind of data or statistics or what they, right? The dreamer tends to be really focused on what they say. And the funny thing is, like, who is they, right? Who is they? We make it up. They isn't a thing. They isn't real, but we put so much importance on what they say is likely. Stephanie said, staying in the rules is such a struggle with my 3-5 profile. Yeah, so I would love to hear for any of you that have a third line in your profile or sixth line as well. When you were growing up, trying new things, messing up, being messy, because that's how the third line and the sixth line is made to function. The sixth line for like until they're about 30 years old, the third line through their whole life. So what was that experience like, making mistakes, right? Quote unquote doing it wrong, failing, that kind of thing. Like, how do you carry wounds with that still? Do you carry shame with that? Because with Virgo, purity, innocence, like all of that is part of it. And so we can falsely construe that as meaning like I have to be perfect. I can never mess up. I can never color outside the lines. If I do, it means that my worth as a human is trashed, right? And that's obviously not true, but that's what conditioning and that's what the low expression of the dreamer archetype can totally like latch onto. So with Virgo rising, one of the really powerful ways to, I don't know if combat is the right word, but basically balance out this energy of like, if you're struggling with doing it right, following the rules, right, finding rules in the first place to adhere to and to follow so that you can make sure you don't do it wrong and get kicked out, is first of all really working on your belief system around there is no one to kick me out of heaven, right? Like there is no bouncer here. Like there's no one guarding the door. There's no one with a guest list that's going to cross my name off if I do anything wrong. So really working on that. There's an affirmation, there's a mantra from one of my favorite money coaches and manifestation coaches, and she says something like, there's no other shoe to drop. So really working on that belief of like nothing bad is coming, right? Like it gets better and it gets better and it gets better. So there's no other shoe to drop. There's nothing to wait for. There's no doom to like be tense about and to expect. So that can be really helpful to just really acknowledge like, wait, yeah, I am scared of getting banished. I am scared of getting kicked out of heaven, especially if you have any kind of religious teaching around that, right? Like with Christianity and all of that stuff, like the Bible starts with the story of the Garden of Eden where they got kicked out. So if you have any kind of religious trauma or just programming and that kind of thing, like really rewriting that story about, wait, no, I am worthy because I am worthy of heaven. I am worthy of paradise. Whatever word resonates with you there. I am worthy of my dreams coming true. And there is nothing or no one that is going to kick me out or stop me, right? You're not going to get a cease and desist letter from the universe saying like, stop this pursuit now. Like you have disqualified yourself. Like that won't happen. And I know that kind of sounds silly listening to it like this, but that is programming that you were born with, right? That's your archetypal coding. So really looking at what is your personal story that has something to do with like messing up so bad that you put yourself out of the game. Hi, Kenja, right? Is that correct? Yeah, so okay. Then the next thing with Virgo rising, really helping to balance out this energy and let go of some of that conditioning around it, is focusing on the opposite energy. And for Virgo, that is Pisces. So Virgo is very body-based. Virgo understands in the highest expression that your body, if any of you have gate 46 and have heard me talk about gate 46, this is very similar to this energy, but Virgo is very body-based, very somatic-based. So any kind of nervous system healing, any kind of somatic healing or somatic just nurturing, right, and comforting that you can do, any kind of tools or modalities that you have found that help you feel safe and present in your body is really powerful for Virgo rising. But Virgo rising understands that your body is your temple, right? Everything that the high expression of Virgo rising does is holy in some sense, right? There's this purity to it. There's this sense of heaven, and I'm using the word heaven, but you can replace that with whatever word feels good for you, right? Perfection, paradise, like fulfillment, whatever feels good there. But basically this area, this land, this state of being where you just feel like like I did it, like it's perfect, I am here, I've arrived, like I am one, I am whole. But Virgo understands that a lot of that is going to be done through the physical body. So Virgo, just the Virgo archetype in general, we also hear this associated with like health and wellness, right? And like working out and eating right and that kind of thing. But in the high expression, it's because you know that your body is one of your prime mediums for communicating with the divine. However, if you find yourself being in your head, really overanalyzing things, really overthinking things, if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling mentally overstimulated, especially if that feels like it's taking away from actually listening to your human design authority, really rooting into that Pisces energy is really good for bringing that energy out of your head and kind of stopping the spin cycle of your overactive mind if it feels bad, right? If your mind is just constantly active and dreaming and like solving problems and it feels good and it feels like it's one of your greatest gifts, then keep doing that. So this is your gauge here is if it feels bad and if it feels like I don't want my brain to keep like being on this like turbo engine kind of thing anymore. So with Pisces, Pisces is all about really connecting to deeper realms. So Pisces, the archetype associated with that is the mystic, and the mystic is about really seeking truth, really seeking knowledge, and deciding which belief system is correct for her. So that can be really powerful for you as Virgo rising if you're struggling with your mindset, right? It's like, well, what belief system do I want to believe? Do I want to believe the belief system that I was taught when I was growing up, like in church? Do I want to believe the belief system that my society taught me, that my culture taught me? Or do I want to choose something else? So really having that autonomy and having that choice around what you believe and what you're creating your life from is really powerful for Virgo rising, and it may be something that you've never questioned or asked yourself until now. Okay, so let's talk about the dreamer aspect of this archetype. Like I mentioned, we see this archetype taught as and portrayed as the innocent. And so some examples in branding of this would be Whole Foods. Like if you've ever been to the grocery store, Whole Foods, their whole philosophy is about food that is unadulterated, right? Pesticides are not part of the products that they sell. Any kind of like GMO stuff, any kind of really like overproduction, chemicals in their snacks and stuff like that. Like that is not part of what they sell, and they really speak to that. Like that's the store that I like to shop at, and they have it all over the walls, right? All over the walls about the quality of their food, the purity of their food, the integrity. Like they use that word a lot, the agricultural integrity or whatever the phrasing is, but integrity. So integrity is a huge part of this archetype. Is like, is this thing staying whole, right? Like we're not like taking away parts of it or compromising parts of it for something. So that's a main focus of the dreamer is integrity, right? Wholeness of this dream, wholeness of this life, really keeping the innocence there. And it doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean being perfect. It doesn't mean not messing up. It means is the essence of this life, is the essence of this brand intact, basically. So other examples, Coca-Cola is a good example of the innocent archetype, where it's like classic Coke, right? Everything that they do is basically the same product and it's never changed. In fact, I don't remember when it was. I read about this case study, but Coca-Cola introduced new Coke. I guess it was like a new formula or new branding or something, and people revolted. They hated it. They wanted classic Coke back. And so that really showed that brand like, hey, like we don't need to change, we're not meant to change, like we have something really solid here, and it's nostalgic for people. So nostalgia is a good keyword for the innocent, and the innocent is just one expression of the dreamer, but I'm speaking to this because this is what we see modeled a lot. And if you ever read any kind of archetype books or anything like that, you'll see the dreamer normally titled as the innocent. Other examples of the innocent archetype would be like any kind of mom and pop store, right? Where their prices are more expensive and things are a little bit less convenient, or you have to go into the store and maybe they have to order something for you and you have to wait and go pick it up a week later, instead of going onto Amazon and just buying it for cheap, or like what are those other like fast fashion places like Shein or Shine or however you say it, right? Where it's super cheap, super convenient, but it is it doesn't have that integrity, it doesn't have that purity that the innocent brand brings to things. So just some examples. Hi, Natalia, another Virgo rising. Awesome. Um, so if that's important to you, like in terms of your ideals and your values and stuff like that, then that's a good thing to bring into your branding. So what that might look like is having colors, brand colors, right? Having a logo, having just brand visuals that are not trendy. They are more, they're more eclectic. They're more antique-y. They're more classic rather than trendy. So a Virgo rising brand, the Dreamer brand, you might not feel great trying to keep up with all of the trends and changing all of the time. You might like that feeling of stability and that feeling of, you know what, this is my brand, this is it, like this is the essence, and we're keeping it like this. So that's an important thing to consider. If you have an undefined G center, Stephanie, if you're still on, Stephanie has a completely open G center, so let me know if this resonates with you. But you might like to change things up. So that's just an important question to ask yourself. It doesn't mean that your branding has to be the same forever, but it might also feel like a relief knowing, like, you know what? Yeah, like this is it. Like this is it forever, and I feel no pressure from the outside world to have to keep up with trends because that's not my brand. Another beautiful example, my favorite example of the dreamer archetype is anthropology. So anthropology is another one like that where they don't necessarily sell trendy stuff. They sell stuff that's really unique and it's really classic and it's really, or not necessarily classic in like the East Coast kind of vibe, but like it's timeless. Timeless is a good word. So I've talked about this before, but Anthropology is one of my favorite stores, and a lot of the clothes that I have from there, I bought. How old am I now? I'm 35, so I bought when I was in high school, so like 20 years ago, and they're still in my closet. They still, like, they're timeless. They weren't trendy at the time, so there's no threat of them going out of style. So that's like a huge part of the Dreamer brand if that part resonates with you. There's like this classicness, this timelessness, this nostalgia sense with it, and that can be really fun and really help you get to create a visual brand that really stands out because it stands the test of time. Okay, so let's talk about the paradise aspect of the dreamer. So, as the dreamer, you are coded to be the ultimate optimist. All of the Disney movies that we see where good trumps evil, right? Even if it seems like it's not going to happen, all of that where good wins at the end is the dreamer archetype. It's the optimist. And like little children do this automatically, right? One of the expressions of the dreamer archetype is the child, where it's just this, they don't know yet, they haven't been taught yet to have doubt or to not believe. Or like my daughter, so she's 6 now, and this happened I think last summer, but she bought this little dollhouse online. She used her own money for it. It was really cute, and we ordered it, and it was supposed to be here on a Saturday, and it didn't show up that Saturday. So the next day was a Sunday. I live in the US. It was coming just regular mail, and she didn't know that the mail didn't get delivered on a Sunday. She didn't know that, right? And so she told me, she's like, I'm manifesting it, like it will be here today. And so I think I probably even said, in my very like jaded adult mindset, not even thinking about it, I probably said, oh, the mail doesn't come on Sundays, like it might be here tomorrow. But you know what showed up that Sunday in our yard, which has only happened one time, has never happened since, and had never happened before, was the mailman pulled into our yard, gets out, and has her dollhouse in her hands. And she was like, yeah, for whatever reason, Amazon has started delivering on Sundays now. And she manifested this. It wasn't UPS. It wasn't like a private delivery company. It was the U.S. Postal Service delivered her dollhouse on a Sunday because she had such pure faith and pure belief and pure optimism of it. She didn't care that I told her, you know, her own mother told her that day, oh, that's not going to happen. That's impossible. She didn't care, but she also didn't know. So anything that you can do to kind of like block out all of the rules, right? I like to really make sure not to look at like industry standards for statistics or open rates or engagement rates or any of that stuff, because when we have this idea in our head of how it should be, that tends to be what we believe is possible and what we create. So for you as the dreamer, you have this gift of just believing anything is possible, because anything is possible. We're just taught that it's not. So you're here to really be that example for us and to show us like what it looks like to be delusional in your belief system, but then to bring that into your reality. Okay, let's see what you're saying. Stephanie said, understanding that about the Open G Center has been really freeing. Good. Lucia said, as a manifesting generator, I feel like I change all the time. That's okay. If that feels good to you, you can totally do it. For sure. For sure. Lucia said, love this, block out all the rules. Yeah, another example of this. So I need to actually look up the details. I don't know his name. I don't know when this happened. But basically, there was some kind of race, like a running race. And people trained for it, you know, their whole lives, all year. It was like a huge event. And it was this big marathon. It was this overnight thing. And so generally, there was no rule about this, but this became like the unspoken collective rule that people just did in this race. So around like 8 p.m. or whenever the sun started going down, the racers, the participants in this foot race would stop for the night, right? They would go get a hotel room, sleep, wake up in the morning and start running again. That wasn't a rule within like the actual system of the race. So there's this one man who decided to enter and he didn't know. He wasn't like privy to all of the ways that it worked, right? I think this was before the internet. But he didn't hear, he missed the memo that you stop running at 8 p.m. and go to sleep. So he ran through the entire night. He wasn't breaking any rules, he wasn't doing anything wrong, he just didn't know. So he kept running for 12 hours or 8 hours or however long it was that people were taking a break and sleeping, and he won the race because he didn't know. He didn't know that that's what you just did, right? So that's really, really powerful for the dreamers. Like, well, what are these like limitations and these rules, so to speak, that society or the collective has put on these things that actually aren't the true rules? And so you're here to really be optimistic and break it, and then to manifest your dreams, right? Create your dreams to have this life that you really, really deeply desire. So with the dreamer archetype, she has this sense, this innate sense that paradise exists, right? There is some kind of ultimate expression of her dream. So that might mean in your business, right? You have this dream of having this really big business that's so impactful and makes so much money, and you can donate that money to different charities, or you can, you just have impact, you have influence in like a really positive, really effective way. That might be your ultimate dream, right? Or maybe your dream is to be off the grid and homestead and have all of this land, have like chickens and you get their eggs, have cows where you can get fresh milk, right? Maybe like that is your dream, is to just live off the grid and to have this land of yours where you grow your own food and your own produce, and that's perfection for you. So whatever your dream looks like, and it doesn't have to be like the Pollyanna type of situation, even though Pollyanna is a really good expression of the dreamer archetype. Maybe your dream is to have a penthouse in New York City and to have the corner office of some law firm, right? And to have like all of these stocks and to own all of this real estate. Maybe that's your dream. But whatever the details are, excuse me, whatever the details are of like what you are desiring, what you are envisioning, that is your personal idea of heaven, of paradise, of perfection, of utopia, right? Your most ideal outcome. So that is what drives you, is that pursuit of that, because you believe that it's possible. So if you find yourself like feeling like your head is in the clouds, where you have this vision, you have this dream, yet you're not taking action, you haven't taken that next one step, that's another personal practice to really root into your body, right? That's when that Virgo body-based, like analyzing organization really comes into handy, is when you feel like, okay, like I've got the dreamer part down, but I'm not taking action towards that. So just see like where you're showing up on that spectrum. Are you all about the action, right? You can be very regimented, but you're following somebody else's structure, somebody else's system, and therefore somebody else's dream. Or are you really focused on your dream, yet you're feeling a little bit paralyzed in terms of action? And maybe you're right in the middle. Maybe you have an idea of what that dream is, but and you're also taking action towards it. So just kind of gauge yourself on where you're showing up for that. Okay, so what I want to do today for your charts, let me pull up the thread with all of the charts on it. We're going to talk about your incarnation cross. So in all of these lives, I've looked at different parts of the chart because I think different parts are more relevant for other archetypes, at least for like little quick sessions like this. So let me find that. Where did it go? One moment. Okay, here it is. So we're going to talk about your incarnation cross, because your incarnation cross really shows us what that big dream deep in your heart is all about, right? It shows us what your life's purpose is, what your life's theme is, and it doesn't just mean in terms of work or in terms of your business, although it translates really beautifully into your business. So if you've ever heard me talk about the brand strategy before with your human design chart, the incarnation cross, I refer to as your brand's purpose, right? Your brand's why. Like, why do you have this dream? Why was this dream placed into your heart? What is the reason behind it? What's the context for it? And that really helps you to get clarity around, like, okay, I am called. This isn't just a fluke. Like, my desire to have this business, my desire to have this brand, my desire to create this dream in my mind isn't just a fluke. It's not bad. It's real. It's from God. It's from the divine. It's from the universe, right? It is my calling. So it really, really helps when you can get clear on your incarnation cross. It helps validate that you are called, right? This is a big deal. This is on purpose, and this is why. So then it also helps, everything. Business is hard. Any kind of pursuit of a big goal, a big vision, a big intention is hard. There's going to be lots of hurdles, lots of struggles, and especially for the dreamer archetype, if you are pursuing it and then you fall on your face, right? Or something leads to a dead end, or any of that. If it goes different than how you were imagining in your head, really rooting into that why in order to refuel that motivation and get you started again on this journey is essential, because the dreamer tends to put a lot of overemphasis on the actual journey itself. And while that is a good quality and you can channel that into the high expression, it also can be a really quick way to take yourself out of the race. And what I mean by that, just for a really realistic example, let's say that you are launching something and you send out an email and the link is broken. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I sent out an email and the link was broken. Like, my launch is done. I'm done. Or maybe you do a launch and one person signs up and you're like, I wanted 10 people and only one person signed up, and now I'm canceling the program. I'm refunding this person, right? Because it didn't manifest, it didn't pan out, it didn't unfold exactly how you thought. So if that's something that you're struggling with, really rooting back into the why and rooting back into the purpose and the intention behind it is going to be really powerful for you. Okay, so let me look at the charts that you shared. And if you're on live with me and you know your incarnation cross, put that into the chat. Like, Carrie, I see your chart, but this one doesn't have your incarnation cross. So if you know it, feel free to share it. I'm going to speak to yours first. So the way that I like to explore the incarnation cross, I think it is helpful to just talk about the cross, like the description of the cross on its own. But I also like to dive into the 4 gates that make up the incarnation cross. So the incarnation cross is made up of your unconscious sun and your unconscious earth, and your conscious sun and your conscious earth. And the reason that I'm excited to talk about this specific aspect of the chart today for the dreamers is the dreamer is here to find her version of heaven, right? To find her version of paradise. And just think about that, like what I just said, sun and earth. If you think about the earth and you think about the sun, like that is literally the environment, literally the scene of your paradise, right? It's like your personal Garden of Eden. So Melissa said hers is right angle cross of tension. Thank you for sharing. Did you share your chart, Melissa, on the thread? If you didn't, tell me what your unconscious sun, unconscious earth, conscious sun, and conscious earth are. You can figure that out just from knowing the cross name, and you can also figure out the cross just from knowing those 4, but I don't have all that memorized. So if you guys want to share that with me, that will make it more efficient. But Carrie, if you're still on, oh, you did, perfect. Lucia, if you shared your chart, I'll find it. If not, tell me what your sun and earth gates are. Okay, so Carrie's the right angle cross of penetration. Cool. I'm looking at your chart right now, Carrie. Okay, so with the cross of penetration, that's an interesting sounding one, right? But basically, the cross of penetration is here to get deep into the thick of life. Like, the cross of penetration doesn't care about surface level things. You probably don't do well with small talk, especially since you're a 1-4 profile as well. The 4th line is like, does not like small talk. So if you feel like you're the type of person, especially with your conscious sun in gate 51, if you feel like you're the kind of person where at a party or like meeting new people or whatever, they're like, oh, okay, we're jumping right in, right? Maybe like on a first date or something. If you're like, okay, tell me about all your childhood traumas. I would love to know, right? And like that's the first thing that you kick off the conversation with. Like that is the cross of penetration. Really here to dig into things and to get to the deeper layers. What you care about, the big why behind you is understanding life and understanding humans. Like you just want to understand people's hearts. You want to understand their souls, and you are really good at seeing where all the BS is, right? Where all of that murk is that you can just like throw to the side. Like you don't even have time for that. You want to get to the juicy stuff. You want to get to the meat of it. You want to get into like the yumminess of it. Let me know if that resonates with you. So with gate 51 as your conscious sun, this one is the gate of shock. And the gate of shock is really here to awaken people to something, to open their eyes to something, to, there's a lot of things in life that, like as a coping mechanism, we tend to bury our head in the sands and just ignore it. The gate of shock is here to really like make it so obvious to us that we can't deny this anymore. So the analogy that I like to use for like how this feels is if somebody is sleeping, like your child, maybe you're trying to get them up for school or something, and they're sleeping in their bed, and all of a sudden you come in and you throw the light on, you pull their covers off of the bed, and you like put on some really loud music. Or maybe what are those like cymbals, like those really loud big circle, they're called cymbals, right? Like clacking cymbals, like that kind of thing. Like that's the gate of shock. That's how it feels, where it's like, oh my gosh, that was horrible, like that was a really jolting awakening, but I'm awake now. Like you did your job. I am awake. I'm listening. What are you trying to tell me? So that's like the gate of shock. So basically, the high expression of this, the way that you are meant to use this in your life and in your brand especially, is to, first of all, being okay with people feeling triggered around you. That's just kind of part of it, right? Like you come in, you throw the lights on, you pull someone's covers off their bed, they're going to be angry. They're going to be triggered, but that's part of it. So it's really getting clear on what is this message that is so important that you're willing to allow people to be mad at you for a little bit, right? You're willing to hold space for people's discomfort as they're awakening to this idea or to this truth or to whatever it is. So really getting clear, and that can be a huge part of your brand message. And there's other parts in the chart like your Mercury gates and your Chiron and other things that will, if you go through Spellbound with me, we dive into the brand messaging. But really getting clear on like, okay, what is it that I have to say that's so important, that's worth shocking people into opening their eyes? Carrie said, no, I don't do surface level. Absolutely resonates. I went through a shock awakening myself in 2021. Yes, I love it. Perfect. Means you're right on track. Okay, so next you have gate 57 for your conscious earth. So our sun placements, gate 51 that I just talked about for you, that really shows like the value that you are here to give to the world. It shows the pot of gold that you are sitting on as an entrepreneur, right? As entrepreneurs, as businesses, we need an offer to sell. We need something to sell. We cannot have a business without something to sell. If you don't have anything to sell and you don't have anything of value, yet you're trying to show up online, that's more of the influencer realm, right? You're creating like a persona and a brand for your person. But what we're talking about is business. So you have to have something valuable that people can see and can feel and can know, oh, this is valuable. Let me give you my hard-earned money for this thing that you have that's even more valuable than my money because I want it. So that's what our sun gates represent in business. It represents other stuff in our life, of course, but in business, that's the first place that I like to look at it and how I like to understand it. So Carrie, that value that you're here to give to us is this awakening, right? Is this shock? But what's that big message? What is this life-changing, earth-shattering thing that's going to help us? Remember, y'all as the dreamers are here working with and serving other dreamers. So what is this big piece of knowledge or this big truth or this big way of being that is going to help your dreamers, your baby dreamers, if you will, really manifest and create their dreams? Then we have your conscious earth. So your conscious earth represents, I like to call it the brand promise, right? If you think about earth, like literal earth, the ground, the foundation, it's constant, right? It is there. It is always there. If it's not there, it's a big, huge problem, right? Like in an earthquake or like a landslide or something, like that's a big problem. But for the most part, it's always there, right? It's solid. You can build on it. It's consistent and it's grounding. So our earth placements and our brand really represent this consistent magic that our brand is bringing. It is this grounding force. It feels, when other people experience it from us, it feels safe, it feels steady, it feels like they can build something on it. So yours is in gate 57, which is called the gate of the gentle. And I like this. I like that you have that really intense juxtaposition between the shock and the gentleness, right? So it's like a gentle shock, like, oh, I'm going to shock you, but now I'm going to comfort you, right? So gate 57, it's very intuitive. It's the most intuitive of all 64 gates. And another word for gates, if that feels confusing to you, anyone that's new to human design, your gates just mean your natural gifts. So you can replace the word gate with gift, and you're saying the same exact thing. So with gate 57, its ultimate purpose is to bring about transformation, but do it in a gentle way. So if you think about like a drop of water, the first time water drops onto something, it's not going to do much, right? It's just going to get it wet, but it's not going to create any kind of actual lasting transformation. You amplify that, right? You look at that exponentially over a couple centuries, and that constant drop of water can create a whole riverbed, right? It can literally transform anything. So you can think of that as like your method or your tools, or maybe like your brand. This is just some brainstorming, some examples, so you can understand how it might look and feel, but really like shocking people, right? Really awakening people to something, and then working with them in a more delicate, gentle, slower manner to help make sure that the transformation is lasting. Because sometimes, like, if we find out something, I do this a lot with like food, like I'll find out something about the food industry or meat or something, right? And I'm like, oh, I'm giving up sugar forever, right? It's this big, like, shocking, like, awakening thing. But then, like, 2 days later, I just ate a whole bag of Skittles. And I'm like, oh, well, that wasn't very lasting, right? Like, that initial shock, like, didn't pan out. That didn't have much of a lifespan. So I think, like, that's an interesting thing to play with for yours. Okay. Stephanie said, finding some real aha clicks with my incarnation cross lately. So feel the yes, I'm on the aligned path, but then feel so lost when that clarity goes fuzzy as I start to do the things. Yeah, and that right there, like with that feeling lost and the clarity turning to fuzz when you start to do, first of all, you have that completely open heart, open G center. So that makes a lot of sense, right? With that personal direction. But also that is the kind of the plight of the dreamer, is you get really focused and really put a lot of emphasis and a lot of pressure onto the doing part. So it's like I have this big dream, like the dream is perfect, the dream is everything, but now it's like, I have to bring it to life. So all of these thoughts come up. What if I do it wrong? What if this is the wrong path? What if like I actually can't fulfill this dream? Or what if I do fulfill the dream and it's wrong, right? So there's all of that kind of stuff that comes up that can make that clarity start to feel like white noise. Okay. Oh, Lena. Lena said, feel so seen in this. I am left angle cross of the plane, but I am not Virgo rising, but Virgo sun, Mars, Mercury. Wow. And midheaven. So if there is time, I would love insights as well. Well, everything that I'm saying about Virgo rising, yeah, everything about Virgo, like you absolutely can take that and look at it through those different placements. And we have a free masterclass. It's a 2-day masterclass. Day 1 will be different content than day 2. So you can come to both or watch the replays for both. But in the second part of it, we're going to be talking about your midheaven. So you'll get more specific details about your Virgo midheaven for sure in that class. Okay. So Carrie, let me know how all of that felt for you. I'm not going to dig into your unconscious sun and earth right now because just for time's sake, but let me know. Okay, so Melissa. Melissa is the right angle cross of tension. Let me pull up your chart really quick too. So with the right angle cross of tension, that one feels really weird, right? The name of it, and that one can be really confusing to people. Like, tension, what? And that's why I love having conversations about the incarnation cross, because the names don't do them justice. The names always feel to me like weird science fiction names. Like when I first started to just dabble in human design. I wasn't sold on human design right away. I was really like turned off by it at first, actually, and in denial about a lot of it. But I like looked at some of the incarnation cross names, and first of all, just incarnation cross, you're like, what is that? That feels weird. And then the names of the crosses, you're like, what the heck is this thing? So if any of you feel turned off by the incarnation cross stuff, I completely understand that. So that's why I love digging into it and actually understanding what it means about you and your life's purpose. Okay, so with the cross of tension, the deepest way that I have found to understand this one is like if you think about a stringed instrument, think about a cello or a guitar, right? Any kind of instrument where the music is made because of the tension of the strings. If you have a cello and the strings are like all loose, right, and they're not tense at all, there's no tension, you literally cannot get a vibration. There is no resonance. There is no music that is able to be played. So in order to actually allow the instrument to function as it was designed, the strings themselves have to be really, really tense, right? They have to be very tight in order for that bow, or even like you like pluck your finger on it, for it to create that vibration and therefore create that music. So tension is necessary in order to create this beautiful art, in order to create beauty, in order to create something real, something of meaning, right? So what's the difference between noise and music? It's meaning, right? It's resonance. It is something that's like, oh, I hear that. I get that. That actually means something to me. There's a cohesive story in it. So that is what you are here to do as the cross of tension, is first of all, you are here, and this shows up a lot different depending on what your brand is and what your services are and things like that. But I'm just going to use the example of a coach. Or, we can even look at this through parenting. So the first thing the cross of tension is really here to do is to help people understand that pain and discomfort and feeling bad doesn't mean anything's gone wrong. In fact, it's a really necessary part of life. So really helping people open up and accept and be willing to feel uncomfortable and to feel the challenge and to feel the obstacle that life brings, because that's what's necessary for strength, right? That is what is necessary for us to evolve. So I hope you can't hear me. My husband's in the other room, but I'm going to use him as an example. So growing up, his mother was she always took away any kind of pain or any kind of discomfort from Will and his brother when they were kids. And so that would look like her not holding them accountable for things. And interestingly enough, she's a Virgo sun, so there's probably connection here. But like, she would take away any kind of accountability, any kind of expectations, because if they were held accountable, that means that they had to experience some kind of displeasure, right? Or some kind of discipline or some kind of discomfort. But in the long run, what that did is it taught them they weren't able to build up that ability to feel uncomfortable in order to achieve something. So the cross of tension is really here to help people with that, to like really kind of reframe the idea of what it means if you're feeling discomfort through a goal, right? Or through a challenge or through some kind of plight. And that's such a beautiful message for the dreamer archetype. So remember, and y'all have heard me say this 100 million times, but you're going to hear me say it 100 million more, because it's so important for us to actually understand in a way that we embody it. So you as the dreamer, you are working with other dreamers. So the dreamer tends to kind of freak out when something has gone wrong, or when she feels bad, or when she feels scared, or when she feels confused, any kind of negative emotion like that, right? She tends to freak out and give up. So you're here to hold that space and to be that example for other dreamers. The tension is part of it. The tension isn't just like something to tolerate, but it's part of the story. It's what allows the music to play. It is what allows the tension, or sorry, it's what allows the vibration to actually happen. So does that metaphor make sense? I know that one can be a little bit like, what? But basically, tension is good, and it's part of life, and it's what makes the story. Let me see what y'all are saying. Stephanie said that explanation nailed my feelings this week, sent my nervous system off the deep end, and then starting to plan do after. Yeah, for sure. And that's real. Especially too, like with the online space, if you have other business owners, other brands that you follow and look up to, they tend to share the highlight reels, right? And not talk about, well, I launched this program 5 times before anyone signed up. Like, we don't really talk about that stuff. And so it can be really easy when you haven't gone through it yourself to be like, oh, well, that looks simple, right? Like, I'll just create a program and launch it and 100 people will show up, when really, like, it's not like that at all. So I think the more that we can find mentors and find role models who talk about the hard parts, talk about when they failed, when they fell on their face, and how they felt during it, and all of that, the more that we can really start to normalize the rocky path to it, because that's how it is for everybody. But again, the dreamer especially tends to freak out when things go awry. But the more that you can normalize and remind yourself, this is how, like, I'm doing it right. Like, this means it's nothing has gone wrong. I'm doing it right. Melissa said, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I definitely feel that myself. And so learning to work through it myself better to help others. Exactly. Exactly. And that's regardless of our human design, anything, regardless of our archetypes, the more that we can understand what this means for us and dive into this on our own journey, the more we're going to be these embodied guides. Okay, I'm going to speak to your sun and earth really quick. Interesting. So, with Carrie's that we looked at, hers was very shocking, right? It was very like jolting. And same with Melissa's. So Melissa's, her conscious sun is in gate 39, which is called the gate of provocation. So gate 39 is this energy. If you watched the Free Spirit training yesterday, I talked about the archetype of the pixie, which is one of the expressions of the free spirit. And the pixie is here to like cause mischief. Like, she wants to cause trouble. Just like she loves it. And so gate 39 is kind of similar to that, where it's like you're here to poke, you're here to prod, you're here to like really rifle some feathers. And so sometimes you might just have this like urge to do it. If you like to troll, or if you like to kind of just like, rile someone up because it's fun for you. That's just part of your energy. It's part of how you're designed. But another deeper part of this with gate 39 is understanding that sometimes you just walking into a room is going to provoke people. It's going to annoy someone, right? It's going to like trigger someone when you're like, I didn't even do anything. That is totally gate 39. So just knowing that when you show up and you share your message, or you share your opinion on something, or you disagree with someone, right? Maybe you're having like a civilized debate and you disagree and they seem to get really worked up about it. That's gate 39. So really accepting that. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen all the time, but another good way to start to look at this and understand gate 39 for you is that it's a really good built-in gauge for your correct people versus your incorrect. So the correct people for you are going to really be like, I get that. Like, I feel that. Yeah, I agree with that. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for being the voice to this, and that kind of thing. So just understanding, like, if people freak out, if people say silly things under any of your posts, if people unsubscribe and go out in a dramatic way where they like email you and they're like, how dare you say this, and all of that, like, that's just gate 39, and it means you're doing it right. It's also can like be this very flirty energy. So if you feel like, if flirting feels natural to you and feels good for you, like, play that up in your brand. Allow that part of yourself to come out, because it's going to be really well received. Yes, I'm going to get through as many as I can, Lucia, for sure. Okay, so with your conscious earth, that one's in gate 38, and this one's called the gate of the struggle. So gate 38 is about really getting clear on what's worth fighting for. Like, what do you care about? What's the word? I'm blanking on the word. What is something that what's a hill that you'll die on, right? What is a cause? What is a belief? What is a message? What is a result? What is something that you are willing to fight for? So this is important for conditioning, especially with the dreamer, because you may have been taught, like, this is a good cause to care about. This is a good thing to fight for. But then you ask yourself, you're like, do I really care about that, like, on a deep level? Or do I care about this other cause? And it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you have bad morals or anything like that. It just means, like, this was really important to my mom, and I see that and I honor that, and like, I totally get why she cares about this cause, but it doesn't make my blood boil. It doesn't feel like there's this burning this burning desire within me to fight for this cause, but for this cause or for this message, right? It doesn't have to be a political, like societal thing. But so just really getting clear on like what are your personal convictions, and then allowing yourself, having compassion with yourself, giving yourself grace if you are realizing, wait, I was taught to really like fight for this, but I don't really care about that much, and giving yourself grace as you let that go. And then of course, like with gate 38, it's really good energy to build community with, to build a camaraderie ship, right? Where it's like you feel really passionate about this thing, so you speak about it, and then of course it's going to attract other people. Okay, so let me just scroll through y'all's comments really quick. Okay, so we talked about Melissa's, we talked about Carrie's. Okay, then I'm gonna look at Lucia's, and we'll look at Stephanie's, and then we will call it a day. Sound good, y'all? Let me just see what is being said. Carrie said, thank you. I appreciate the insight. It really resonates. I'm really called to singing, writing, influencing once known, sharing my awakening and everything truth of the world that I've been shown over the years. I have had huge dreams and visions around it for the last year and a half, the complete opposite to the life I've led. I haven't been able to take action, or if I do, it's for 10 minutes. Then I'm like, no, it can't be for me. So much confusion, freak out, give up. Yet on the other hand, my dreamer side knows that I'll get there. Yeah, that is so the story of the dreamer. That is so the story. Like, you're doing it right. The dreamer tends to have this like fall from grace, where she has this awakening, right? Or this rite of passage where she realizes like life isn't a Disney movie. There are hard parts to it, and she can really go through like a dark night of the soul as she goes through that. But then she basically like ponies up, right? She rallies up, like she decides to go forward still, even though her innocence has been lost in some way. So there's a lot, like that's a huge part. Everything that you articulated there, Carrie, like that's the dreamer. You're the dreamer. You're doing it right. Melissa said, I definitely feel that myself, and so learning to work. Oh, we already read that one. Yep, exactly. Very much healing my nervous system and don't feel 100% safe in my body yet. Emotional eating too. Yep. Very much on a healing journey since awakening, so trying to get in consistent somatic work, yoga, etc. Yep. You're not alone, and you're doing it right. Melissa said, thank you. That's helping to think about, especially in context with the information about Virgo rising in the dreamer archetype. Yeah. Okay, so Lucia, she is the cross of the unexpected, conscious sun in 28 and conscious earth in gate 27. So with the cross of the unexpected, this one, oh, you guys have like had really interesting incarnation crosses in perspective, or like in consideration of the dreamer archetype. I love it. There's like all of this rebelliousness that's going against that. And I think that's really cool because, like we talked about, the high expression of the dreamer, she rebels against that part of society that tells you to be practical, right? And to think logically and to not dream too big because you might fall or get distracted or get disappointed or whatever. So I love this. It's so supportive and so cool. Okay, so with the cross of the unexpected, I mean, this one, I feel like this one's really clear. Like, you're here to do things that are unexpected. So what this means is, like, in your personal life, right? If someone tells you to do something, or they think that you're going to do something, like, you're so predictable, like, you're going to do this, blah, blah, blah. You might get this wild hair and, like, do something completely different that people in your life are like, whoa, what? Where did that come from? Like, that was really unexpected. From a branding perspective, it means always asking yourself, like, what if your guiding questions for your brand is, what can I do that is not expected here, right? Like for example, with the dreamer, with her branding, you might think like purple and yellow and like clouds and rainbows and that kind of thing. But what would be like a really unexpected way to show up visually in your brand where you're still the dreamer, and every part of that foundational part of this archetype is being expressed and communicated, but it's really outside of the box, right? It's outside of the lines. You said inside of the lines, so like what would be outside of the lines for you? And this is absolutely something that we can work on in Spellbound and dive really deep into, because I know it's a lot at first, but that's what you're here to do, is like not to be contrary or to be a rebel just for the sake of it, but really like break outside of those lines, right? I love that you said that at the beginning of this live, like staying inside of the lines. Like, how can you make art by living outside of the lines, right? How can you, or like even alchemize those mistakes, right? If you color outside of the lines, so to speak, how can you alchemize that into a really unexpected masterpiece? So that's really exciting. Okay, so with your conscious sun in gate 28, this one is called the gate of the game player. So this one's interesting because it's very extreme. It can show up as being this like adrenaline junkie, like this really careless risk taker, right? Where we see people, we talked about this yesterday in the free spirit training, but like if you see those like adrenaline junkies, those just like really extreme sport people where they'll be on a motorcycle and they'll like try to drive their motorcycle over a bridge or something like that, or like someone that walks tightrope and that does it between two New York City skyscrapers, like that, like really intense, like life or death situation that you put yourself into because you're seeking that adrenaline and you're seeking that rush. So that can be on one side of the extreme with gate 28. And I'm not necessarily saying that's a bad thing unless it's coming from this place of I don't care if I live or die. I don't care. Like I don't care about life. I it's pointless to me, and it comes from that like self-harm kind of presentation of it. That's when there's room to shift and to seek help, right? And to seek support. But if it's coming from like I love roller coasters, I love dirt bikes, I love what other extreme sports are there? I don't know, snowboarding, whatever. If it's coming from that, like this is thrilling, I feel alive, and I'm doing it in a safe way where it's still dangerous, but at the same time, I've really like set up as much protection as I can. That's one way that gate 28 shows up. In the low expression of it, it can show up as not taking any risks at all, like whatsoever. So this can look like avoiding going on a plane. It can look like avoiding launching a business. It can look like avoiding investing your money in the stock market. Really anything where there's any kind of risk and you're not doing it because you're terrified of, we've been talking about this for the dreamer, getting kicked out of heaven, right? Being banished, doing it wrong, getting crossed off the list of some list that doesn't even exist, right? So really looking at that for yourself and seeing like, do I show up on either side of those spectrums, or is this something where I realize that growth happens when I take a risk, right? The more risk that I take in a very analytical, since you do have that strong Virgo energy, the more analytical, the more strategic I can take this risk, but the bigger risk I take, the closer I get to my dream, right? The closer it is to my dream becoming a reality. So that's a really, really, really cool placement for the dreamer archetype, because the dreams that y'all are blessed with, the dreams that you have in your heart, those big desires that you have to make real in this lifetime, they're not simple, they're not easy, and they're not commonplace. And so what that means typically is that there needs to be some big risk that's involved with that, whether that looks like risking your reputation, right? Maybe you've always been in your family or your friend group or something really level-headed, and now you're out here putting your pictures of yourself and your stories, your personal stories on the internet, like that kind of thing. So with gate 27 is the gate of nourishment. So this one is all about, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So it starts with deep physical nourishment, which I do like for Virgo rising. It makes a lot of sense, right? Virgo, like we were talking about, is all about knowing that the body, the physical vessel that you live in, is one of your pathways to divine revelation. It is how you connect with something bigger than you. It is how you receive this deep wisdom. So gate 27 would look like taking care of yourself, taking care of your physical body, because you understand that it is a portal to the divine. But then it goes deeper, right? It's about emotional nourishment. It's about psychological nourishment, mental nourishment, really seeking that fulfillment, really seeking self-actualization, and continuing this personal development and personal evolution because you love yourself so much. So that is an interesting one with Virgo. Virgo can, a lot of times, like the end result for Virgo is going to look the same whether Virgo is in the low expression or the high expression. So for example, someone might have a really fit body, right? Like a really beautiful physique, six pack, not an ounce of fat on them, no cellulite, like that kind of thing, because they eat really clean, they work out all the time, they have this really like dedicated pursuit to their physical health. Well, that their end result, that beautiful physique, is going to be the same if they're in the low expression of Virgo, meaning they're only eating lettuce, they're only drinking water, they're restricting any kind of joyful food that they love. They are waking up at 5 a.m. every day and going to the gym, and they're running for 3 miles a day because they hate their body, right? Because they hate themselves, because they think that if they can reach this peak physical perfection, then they will be worthy, right? All of that, like, fuel for that is really low expression, really painful, really self-destructive. Versus in the high expression of Virgo rising, you have this beautiful physique, the same exact body, yet you're filling your body with nutrients and with food and with water and with the things that it needs because you love it, right? Because you love life, because you want to take care of your body, because you're thankful for it. You're showing up to the gym, you're moving your body, you are lifting weights because you love yourself, right? It's such a different context and such a different fuel, but same end result. So I really like that with gate 27 for your conscious earth, is looking at how are you nourishing yourself and why. More importantly, why are you nourishing yourself? Where is it coming from? And when you can get clear on that, especially in pursuit and in terms of your dreams, right? Like, look at your goals that you have. For your business, let's say. Why do you have these goals? Is it to prove your worth? That is like a constant storyline of the dreamer archetype, is you're trying to prove yourself, trying to prove that you're worthy of your dreams, right? You're trying to prove that you're worthy of heaven. You're trying to prove to whoever, to they, that you're worthy. So really looking at all of the stuff that you are physically going after that you like is tangible in your life, money goals, fitness goals, relationship goals, career titles, that kind of thing, and look at the reasoning, the fuel behind it. Okay, so we are over our time now. So I'm going to call it a day for the readings. But thank you all so much for showing up and for sharing your charts here. Any questions? I will wait for a couple seconds to see if any comments come through with questions. Feel free to ask me questions about the dreamer. But I hope, are you feeling more clear about who she is and what she stands for and what she's here to do as an archetype? I really love the dreamer. I think I have when I'm around dreamer clients, like I can just feel it, like that optimism and that joy and that pure, that just like one of the best parts of being a human is the ability to dream, and the dreamer archetype really awakens that in us. You're so welcome. Awesome. Okay, so just in case any of you have missed the memo, we have a free masterclass that is happening next week. It's happening next Wednesday and Thursday, and it's called New Paradigm Platform. And we're talking about really looking at your chart to get insight into where you are designed to show up online in a way that feels really good. So for example, does your chart point towards Facebook or Instagram? So we are going to talk about really literal things in this class. The replay will be sent out, but it will only be available for a couple of days. So make sure if you want to watch this, if you want to be a part of it, that you clear your schedule for it. It's going to be so fun. It's at 4:30 Central on both days, and we'll have some Q&A time and all of that good stuff. Stephanie said, each time I hear you explain it, a new thing connects. Appreciate you so much. Appreciate you. Thank you for also, Stephanie, your dedication to really going all in on the dreamer and exploring her and understanding what she means. Yay! Good. You should get excited and scared. That means it's real. That means it's happening. That means you're doing it right. I love that. All right, y'all. Well, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I will see you tomorrow if you're coming to the Harmonizer training. And then I'll send out the email with the dreamer information tomorrow. I'm going to send that with the Harmonizer because Spellbound is open, which means I'm sending out more emails than regular. So I just don't want to spam you. But if anybody has questions about Spellbound, so Spellbound is our signature program here at Magic by Human Design. It is a 7-week program. We dive into 6 modules of deep content about really creating a brand that's aligned to your human design and your brand archetype. And there's also a group coaching component. So we'll have weekly group calls and also a private Facebook group. And it's really, really amazing if you are resonating with what we're talking about during this series and you want to learn more about how and what and where and who and when and all of the things when it comes to really creating a brand and a business that is magnetic and it is a force because of your human design. Yeah, it's going to be so good. I love Spellbound so much. We're continually pouring into it and making it better, making it more efficient, making it more relevant, more resonant, and it's a dream. So if anyone has any questions about Spellbound, let me know. Doors close next Friday, maybe Saturday. I forgot. They close in about a week. So as soon as you enroll, you'll get instant access to Brand Rising, which is the pre-work, and it's all about awakening up the archetype, your dream, not your dream archetype, your brand archetype within you. So that way you can come into Spellbound really feeling like yourself, really feeling like your brand archetype, and we can hit the ground running. All right, y'all, any questions, let me know. And then if you watch the replay, leave that hashtag so I can see who is here. Bye.